Jay Shankar writes that, in his book, when he talks, what is our understanding of foreign policy? So he says, we complicate the whole concept of foreign policy with too many complicated terminologies. Effectively, foreign policy is something which is just a pursuit of our interest. Pursuit means what we are pursuing, a sensible pursuit of interest. For example, the first question that I posed to you, why is foreign policy so important to know? So the very idea he says is that it is how it impacts us every day as citizens. So it is about foreign policy and you as an individual, rather than understanding it in the terms of theoretical academic sense. Do you think whatever measures, whatever policies, whatever strategies that are being devised by the government with respect to national interest, do they fulfill your daily goals? Do they impact your daily interest? That is foreign policy. So he reduces the notion of foreign policy not only to the understanding at the international systemic level, but to the individual level, to the nuanced citizen level, कि तुम्हें daily life में कैसे impact करता है, ये सोचना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी. Interest, it can be your interest not only in terms of profit, it is also goods, it is also identity, it is also commercial interest. Every individual, whatever is happening with respect to foreign policy decisions impacts you on a daily life. And it can be various aspects of your life, from price of petrol to price of goods to stock markets to your investments to your exports. If you are owner of an airline company, how breaking a tie with any Turkish airline can impact you. Okay? So it is at that individual level that he is bringing. So he says it's nothing but sensible pursuit of interest. Got it? Any other question? Okay, let's move towards the determinants of foreign policy. So what do we mean by determinants? Which means something which is a very key factor. Factors are many. There can be anything and everything. But something which actually shapes the foreign policy becomes a determinant of foreign policy. Okay? So there can be multiple factors that can impact foreign policy. But determinant is something which holds a lot of significance, lot of weight of how the foreign policy has been shaped in the past and how its legacy also continues in the present time. That is a determinant of foreign policy. Is this clear? Okay. So when we talk of determinants of foreign policy, you should always look at it in two dimensions. One is the internal determinants. Now, even though UPSC will not ask this question to you, but once you understand this, your answer writing will improve to a very large extent. Okay. So now what can be the internal determinants? What are those internal factors which has shaped India's foreign policy? Come on, tell me something by common sense. What can you think? क्या shape करता है foreign policy को? Common sense. Okay, population. So demographics, fine. Then geography. Then regime, political regime. Okay, fine. Yes, ideology and so when we talk of the internal determinants, it is obviously geography, it is history. I'll discuss each of them, don't worry. It is the political system, it is the social structure. What is the social structure? Which means what is our diversity, caste, religious, ethnic, how all of that determines foreign policy. Yeah, cultural factors, yes, social structure, so this, okay. Then economic factors, right? When we talk of political system, we will talk from parliament to states to all the institutions that are formulating foreign policy. So institutions are parliament, MEA, National Security Council, state governments we have put, okay. Then we have cultural factors, which are obviously associated even with history. So historical factors also and cultural factors also, right? Then when we look at internal factors, which means in terms of environment at a particular time in the country, which means if there is some economic crisis, how that will impact. If there is a social crisis, how that will impact the whole shape of, so environment within, okay, that also shapes. Then when we look at external determinants of foreign policy, तो external environment में क्या है? तो बाहर का माहौल. तो what is बाहर का माहौल? What is the external environment when we come to foreign policy? So external environment will be first the global order. What is global order? which means how the international system is working. So if there is a world war, if there is a cold war, if after 1990s globalization is the trend, if there is, a new order, disintegration of Soviet Union and end of Cold War. ठीक है, क्लास में सोना मना है ना? ऑक्सीजन लो अंदर, थोड़ा पानी पियो and be attentive. ठीक है? So global order is what is the nature of what is happening in the world system. So if we look at today's international system, तो global order में सबसे important factor क्या है today? So it is the US-China rivalry and how it is shaping all the events from the global to the regional to the bilateral level. है ना? So that is the key rivalry that is happening. Then there are regional wars that are happening, be it Russia, Ukraine, be it Israel, Hamas. Okay. So globally, what is the nature of the order? Whether it is, dominated by one key country like US. So we used to call it a unipolar world order. क्या बुलाते थे? ठीक है. अब try to understand 2-3 terms because you all are new to it. So one is unipolar, then is bipolar, and then is multipolar. And then you have one more term, unilateralism, right? Minilateralism. Then there is multilateralism. So ये सब same लगता है अगर distinctly meaning नहीं समझे, ठीक है? So first let's just understand these terms, then we'll take the factors in more detail. So when we say unipolar world order, which means one country is what? The leadership. One country is a very strong power and it is the country which is driving all relations, impacting how policies are happening. So when we use the term polar and when we use the term lateral, इसमें फर्क क्या है? What is the difference? Okay. So polar means pole, derived from the term pole. Pole of what? It is pole of power. क्या है? So polar means single power. Unipolar means one power. Bipolar means 2 key powers. ठीक है? Tripolar means 3 key powers. ठीक है? Multipolar means there are a lot of emerging powers who are shaping the world order. Okay? Order, which means what is the nature of the system. That is order. Okay? Global order. We'll also study world order in the upcoming classes, so we'll refine your concept a little. Today, understand these terms. All right? Then there is terminology in the sense of unilateralism. So when we say lateralism का मतलब क्या है? Lateralism means what is the extent of cooperation? What is it? Extent of. So what is the extent of cooperation? So when we say China is acting unilateral, which means the extent of cooperation is not existing. It is doing everything on its own, unique. I am the one who will determine rules of the game and I will decide how I have to behave in this international order. That is unilateralism. मैं अपने मर्जी का मालिक. ये बात समझ आई? तो पोलर और लैटरलिज्म में फर्क समझ आया? Lateralism का मतलब है किस extent, or so we say the world should be guided more by multilateralism than unilateral actions. इसका मतलब है more countries should come together and cooperate to build this system. Is this clear? Then nowadays there is a term which is called as minilateralism. So minilateralism का means what है? So we have a lot of regional organizations that are happening. Okay? So then there is something like a Quad, right? Which is existing in the Indo-Pacific region. एक regional grouping है Quad countries, है ना? तो India, US, Japan, Australia, Quad countries. Then there is AUKUS, ठीक है? US, Australia and UK. They are operating it. So minilateralism, which means some countries coming together and trying to cooperate on matters of their choice. Mini. Regional level पे तो cooperate कर रहे हैं. There are many members. Minilateralism, which means some extent of cooperation on common set of issues you and me agree on. That is known as minilateralism. और ये term कहाँ से emerge होता है? This term is emerging because of the nature of smaller regional groupings happening in which region? In the Indo-Pacific region. So it started, say, lot of minilateralism is happening. So some countries are coming together and they are cooperating on certain set of common issues and interest. ये बात समझ आई? All the concepts are clear? So when we say polar, which means pole of power. Then we say lateralism, which means extent of cooperation. So we want which world order? Multilateral, that everybody should coordinate. But do you think the world operates It will become, can you, me, sir, everybody can take decisions for India, or Prime Minister Modi and his government will only take. So effectively, in reality, it will only be some powers which drive the world politics. Even if we want to do this, extent of cooperation karna bhi chahte, but it is always the major powers which determine what will be the shape of the order, because it is their interest which dominate in the world affairs. तो चाहने पर भी ये सब चीजें मुमकिन होना थोड़ा मुश्किल है. बातें जरूर होती है, ये करो वो करो, बट इन ट्रू सेंस टू डू इट इज डिफिकल्ट. सो व्हेन वी टॉक ऑफ हाउ दिस एक्सटर्नल डिटर्मिनेंट्स, तो कैसा ऑर्डर है कोल्ड वॉर में? बाइपोलर, टू मेजर पावर्स है, यूएसए एंड यूएसएसआर. फिर डिक्लाइन ऑफ यूएसएसआर हो जाता है, तो क्या पावर बनता है? हु बिकम्स मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट? यूएसए. देन देयर इज अटैक ऑन यूएस. ठीक है, तो बिग क्वेश्चन ऑन देयर हेजेमनी विल कम कि तुम दुनिया को बड़ा सिक्योरिटी दोगे, तुम्हारे यहीं पे हो गया अटैक, अब क्या हो गया पोपट, फिर क्या करोगे? ठीक है, सो दैट विल बिकम अ चैलेंज टू यूएस हेजेमनी. सो ऑल ऑन दैट 1990s के बाद ग्लोबलाइजेशन आ रहा है. तो व्हेन ग्लोबलाइजेशन इज कमिंग, व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? लॉट ऑफ अदर पावर्स आर आल्सो इमर्जिंग. दे आर बिकम इकोनॉमिकली इंपॉर्टेंट. व्हेन दे बिकम इकोनॉमिकली इंपॉर्टेंट, स्लोली दे विल एक्सरसाइज political power and influence also. ठीक है, so that's how international order moved. And now we seek to establish what kind of order? Multilateral order. Which kind of order? Multipolar order, sorry. And seek to ensure that the global institutions are guided by multilateralism. Then global order, external environment. What else determines the external factors of India's foreign policy? Is the treaties, the conventions we are part of. This is part, when I say treaties and conventions, ये क्या लग रहे हैं? What is this? This is international law. What? So this will determine how things are happening. This is part of international law. ये बात समझ आई सबको? फिर हमें और कौन, हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी को और कौन शेप करता है? What is the, हाँ बेटा, वो एक्सटर्नल एनवायरमेंट का डिटर्मिनेंट नहीं होगा. डिटर्मिनेंट क्या होगा? डिटर्मिनेंट विल बी हु आर आवर allies, who are helping us in problems and crisis. Okay, so the allies are very important, right? Enemies don't determine things too much because you have to deal with them, but allies matter a lot because that is how you will create your own narrative in the world, है ना? So we will try to now tell the world what Pakistan is doing. We will shape our story, what has happened, what continues to happen. Okay, so the allies and alliances matter a lot. What matter? Allies and alliances. Now, even if we have, you know, alliances, we in India there is a key policy that we don't do any formal alliance that way. Is this understood? Which means even if we are doing some set of treaties, like we have done treaties with Bangladesh, or we have done treaty with Nepal, or we have done treaty with Russia, okay, but we formally don't ally in this way that, you know, in all times to come I will be by your side. ऐसा नहीं होता. Formally we are not part of something like NATO, even if we are very close to US and other European powers. That is what India's policy. But we are entering into informal alliances. ऐसे liquid type of grouping, fluid type of groupings है, जैसे Quad, informal alliance है. It is not a formal alliance. रियल में तो वो ऑपरेट तो फॉर्मल अलायंस की तरह ही कर रहा है, पर कहने के लिए उसको क्या है? इट इज अ इनफॉर्मल अलायंस. सो अलायंसेस, allies are the friends and alliances are what are the kind of partnerships we are doing, same term. So alliances can be two types, formal and informal. ये बात समझ आई सबको? So these are the external determinants of India's foreign policy. Okay, now come back, let's expand on this one by one. Please write down examples of everything that I say. You will not find this everywhere in the notes. Okay, now so when it is said that you can change everything, you can change your policies, we can change our leaders, but the curse of geography or the benefits of geography cannot be eroded. So you cannot, you can choose who are your allies and you can choose who are your enemies, but you cannot choose your neighbors. So geography is a very important determinant. When we talk in context of India here, okay, so India is both kind of power, which means we have land also huge and we have the sea also. We have the ocean also. Okay, so something like a country, like small country like Nepal. Okay, it is sandwiched between, many other powers, and it doesn't have access to the seas. So it is dependent on other countries. But a country like India is very vast in its geography, both in terms of land and ocean. So how this both land and ocean are determining our foreign policy? So there are two important men or scholars, we can say, who have said that if any country wants to become a great power, one set of scholars say you should be a great land power. What power? Land power, which means if you control all the trade routes in the land, then you will be able to rule the world. And the other scholars say you have to be a very great sea power if you want to control the world. Okay, this key debate of which element is more important, we call it as the Mackinder-Mahan debate. Who are these two people? So one is Halford Mackinder. So key geostrategist Halford Mackinder. क्या नाम है इनका? Halford Mackinder. तो इन्होंने दुनिया में कौन सी थियरी दी? He gave the heartland theory. I will apply to India also. Wait. So he gave heartland theory in terms of importance of geography strategically. ठीक है? I'll tell you the term strategic also because it's important. Just finish this. So when I say heartland, what is heartland according to Halford Mackinder? So Halford Mackinder say the core of the Eurasian continent. What is the core of the Eurasian continent? तो यूरोप और एशिया के बीच में कोर क्या है? सेंट्रल एशिया है. Central Asia is on the crossroads of Europe as well as Russia. Okay, and Afghanistan is very important because Afghanistan is located on also the crossroad of West Asia, South Asia and Central Asia. It is connecting the West Asian countries like Iran. It is connecting the South Asian countries like India, because if we claim POK to be part of India, then we have a direct border with whom? Afghanistan. Okay? So, in terms of, yes, so heartland, Afghanistan is the heartland. So, the one who controls the heartland will control the world. So, it is like advisors to all geostrategists who are making policies in terms of looking at geographical location, that if you control Afghanistan, if you have Afghanistan good terms, so then things will be easy for you. That's why we see so many, Anglo-Afghan wars happening. The British Empire and Russian Empire used to fight a lot to control this northwest frontier province at that point of time. Afghanistan को control करने के लिए Russia and British also fought. USA and Russia also fought. And now China is also fighting. India, though, we are actually at a bad strategic edge because Pakistan used to play a key role. Now, a lot of things are changing. Okay? So, understood first the importance of land. Now, how, when we talk in context of India, what do we say? How is land determining our foreign policy? So, we are surrounded by what? The Himalayas. So, Himalayas are into, central Himalayas are there, eastern Himalayas are there, western Himalayas are there. All these Himalayas have what? Important strategic passes. And these passes are very, very important for us because we know they also were important passes in ancient time. They played importance with respect to ancient Silk Route, we say. So controlling these passes become very important. है ना? तो chicken neck बोल रहे हैं. In Western, there are so many passes in the glaciers, and these passes, that's why Galwan Valley. So Galwan Valley will be a very key determinant of how the entire LAC dispute with China will phase out. ये बात समझ आई? So when we say land, we are talking of the passage of all these passes that are there between India and its bordering countries. Border points are very, very important locations. So in that way, what is there? Land power is very, very important factor to protect these passes, becomes very, very important factor in foreign policy. And obviously, having connectivity in Afghanistan or having connectivity to Central Asia, this is determining our foreign policy. This connectivity is very important because it will shape all our mineral interest. It will shape how we deal with these countries. So, Russia is also far and USA is also far. Okay? So, both geography and Latin America is also far. But with US, we have very good trade ties, huge trade in billions. But that is there with Russia, it is lesser. And with Latin America, all the more lesser. So, yes, geography determines foreign policy, but it is not always geographical reduction. So don't reduce everything to geography. If continuous efforts are made, we can overcome and overpower all geographical challenges also. So this thought process also should run through your mind कि हाँ geographical barriers है, लैटिन अमेरिका में नहीं है डायरेक्ट एक्सेस, यूएस में तो कितना ट्रेड कैसे है फिर, हाउ थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग. Okay, so geography, yes, there is curse also, but we have to learn how to overcome by having innovative initiatives. Clear? इतनी बात समझ आई? Next is Alfred Mahan. So he is British Marshal, okay, of the Navy, senior admiral. So he says, if you want to control the world, you control the oceans. If you control the oceans, you will control the world. So if you see, UK also established itself as a key sea power. Even USA, why does USA have all naval Navy, US Navy present? They have US Navy command, they say. Why all US naval commands are present in strategic locations of the world? Similarly, India also has to be. तो क्या है? Ocean is very, very important. अब क्या ये thought process of the importance of oceans in post-independence India always existed? Was India looking at ocean also very important factor in geography? And do we have a strategic mindset even towards oceans? So very important Indian geostrategist is there. His name is K.N. Panikkar. Okay? याद रहे तो अच्छा है, नहीं तो बिल्कुल कोई जरूरत नहीं. ठीक है, बट आइडिया समझो. तो K.N. पानिकर बोलते हैं आज तक इंडिया का माइंडसेट कैसा है? कॉन्टिनेंटल, मतलब लैंड से ही थ्रेट इमेजिन करता है और लैंड को ही सिक्योर करने की कोशिश करता है. ओशियन को अपने इंटरेस्ट में कैसे यूज करना है, इंडिया कुडंट लर्न फॉर अ वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम. सो ओशियानिक माइंडसेट वाज मिसिंग. It is only later that we know maritime interests are very, very important. So we started to face terror challenges also from the ocean. So how those in 2008 Mumbai attacks, they came from the seas. So coastal security, maritime security, having important partnerships in, different parts of Indian Ocean region, be it in Indonesia, Sabang, be it in Dakam port in Oman. ये सब क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why in Vietnam? Because we see now also that threats can also come from the oceans. So South China Sea, if too much control is there by the Chinese, then India also needs to establish उसके आसपास के लोगों के साथ अच्छे relations और countries के साथ. Okay, so today India has both the continental threats challenge understanding as well as the oceanic threat challenge understanding. इतनी बात समझ आई सबको? ठीक है? Okay, and that's why we have, there are important choke points in the oceans. क्या बुलाते हैं हम इनको? Which means they are points with lot of high congestion of traffic. सारे की क्या है ये? Either trade routes है और either, movement routes है. तो यहाँ पे choke points पे क्या होना चाहिए? अच्छी partners होने चाहिए in the oceans. So we are securing all the border disputes also in the lands, be it the LOC, be it the LAC, as well, and doing a better border management today, as well as securing our oceanic strategy. The whole concept of Indo-Pacific region and India becoming so important as a country. Okay, Indo-Pacific में पहले why the term Pacific and Indian को जोड़ाया क्यों नहीं आज तक? अभी क्यों जोड़ रहे हैं? क्यों? India is now the center of the how US is looking at securing this entire ocean. India is a key pillar in their interest. So they coined the term Indo-Pacific. So we are joining Indian Ocean region and the Pacific Ocean together and looking at it as a broad geostrategic, क्या बोलेंगे? Broad geostrategic category. ये बात समझ आई? Clear? Absolutely clear, everybody? Okay. Just now quickly, you all have written all these aspects. ये key terms लिख दो, सबसे समझना ज्यादा जरूरी है. Okay?
अगर आप दिल्ली जैसे शहर में बजट में आईएएस की तैयारी करना चाहते हैं तो इस वीडियो को एंड तक जरूर देखें. ये है बनो आईएएस. इसको रन करने वाले हैं यूपीएससी क्वालिफाइड एक्स सिविल सर्वेंट एंड जामिया आरसीए एलुमनाई. यहाँ की फैकल्टी को ना केवल यूपीएससी एग्जाम का एक्सपीरियंस है बल्कि पढ़ाने का भी सालों का एक्सपीरियंस है. ये एक्सपर्ट फैकल्टी हर टॉपिक को अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, उसके बाद हर टॉपिक को डिक्टेट करते हैं ताकि आपके पास अपने खुद के हैंड रिटन नोट्स हो. साथ ही क्लास में प्रीलिम्स और मेंस के प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व किया जाता है और डिस्कस भी किया जाता है.
यहाँ पे आपको सिविल सर्वेंट्स जैसे कि आईएएस, आईआरएस और एक्स सिविल सर्वेंट्स साथ के साथ जामिया आरसी के एलमनाइज आपको पर्सनल मेंटरशिप देते हैं। डेली आंसर राइटिंग जो कि सारे टॉपर्स रिकमेंड करते हैं, इस पर यहाँ पे बहुत फोकस किया जाता है जो कि बाकी कोचिंग्स में नहीं होता है। इसके साथ ही आपको मिलती है प्रीलिम्स और मेंस की टेस्ट सीरीज जो आपको एग्जाम के लिए रेडी करती है। यहाँ के अगर हाईलाइट्स की बात करें तो स्मॉल बैच साइजेस जिसमें 60 स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं और जीएस कोर्स के साथ आपको एसए और सीसाइट की क्लासेस भी होती है जिसके लिए आपको अलग से पे करने की जरूरत नहीं है।
और ये लोकेटेड है सुखदेव विहार मेट्रो स्टेशन के बिल्कुल सामने। तो देर किस बात की, आज ही स्टार्ट करें और अपने यूपीएससी के सपने को साकार करें। थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग बनो आईएएस।
Let me just explain the term strategic since I use it more. So what is strategic? Why do you all say I have to do strategy बनानी है मैम, अच्छी preparation करनी है, strategy क्या होनी चाहिए? Watch big strategy, main strategy, prelim strategy, what is the interview strategy? What is it? In common term, huh? A plan, okay. Then, so plan तो सबके पास ही है, जो स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं बना रहा वो उसके पास भी प्लान है, पहले ये पढ़ूंगी फिर ये पढ़ूंगी फिर ये पढ़ूंगी। हाउ इज प्लान डिफरेंट फ्रॉम स्ट्रैटेजी? इज प्लान एंड स्ट्रैटेजी सेम? नो। स्मार्ट प्लानिंग, ओके फाइन। सो व्हेन वी से स्ट्रैटेजी, ओके, द आइडिया स्ट्रैटेजी इज व्हेन वी हैव lot of priorities, right? What is the choice you make matters. Which means now that prelims is over, it is sheer stupidity whether your exam is happening or no to sit and study prelims portion now. मेरा पेपर खराब गया, अगले साल के लिए पहले मैं prelims की तैयारी, फिर मैं मेंस की तैयारी. So that is, you have to know when to study what. So you prioritize yourself. So when we prioritize, okay, amongst a lot of options that करना तो सब है, पढ़ना एथिक्स भी है, पढ़ना प्रीलिम्स वाला पोर्शन भी है नेक्स्ट के लिए, लेकिन अब इस समय में क्या पढ़ना जरूरी है इज दैट यू प्रिपेयर फॉर योर मेंस. सो अमॉन्ग्स्ट कंपीटिंग चॉइसेस, व्हाट प्रायोरिटाइजेशन यू मेक. कंपीटिंग चॉइसेस है ना, सब पढ़ना है, you can't ignore anything. From those competing choices, what you are prioritizing is strategy. This is the common concept of strategy. Okay, but when we look at strategic in the terms of international relations, okay, so first in terms of international relations, which means in terms of foreign policy, so we are talking a set of decisions that what the foreign policy makers are making as per what interest. तो तुम्हारे भी डिसीजंस है ना, इंटरेस्ट है कि एग्जाम क्रैक करना है, लेकिन वो तुम्हारी लाइफ पे है. बट हाउ द डिसीजन मेकर्स मेक डिसीजंस, राइट, बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट इंटरेस्ट टू फुलफिल व्हेन इज स्ट्रेटेजिक. ये बात समझ आई? फर्स्ट, व्हाट इज द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ स्ट्रेटेजिक? सो व्हेन वी से स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसीजन, so it is with respect to how we meet our interest in the best possible manner amongst what competing choices, what you prioritize when. ठीक है, तो अब जैसे कोई भी एक बड़ा इंसिडेंट हो जाता है तो सारा फोकस उसी पे होता है ना गवर्नमेंट का, कि एक टाइम पे एक चीज, एवरीथिंग एल्स विल स्टे ऑन द बैक बर्नर. तो बच्चों की एग्जाम रुक जाएगी कंट्री में, ठीक है, प्रीलिम्स के ऊपर फिर वो होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, है ना, क्योंकि उस समय क्या था मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट आइडिया कि वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द इमीडिएट प्रॉब्लम एंड एड्रेस दैट, है ना. So when we talk strategic in terms of foreign policy, it is what? The set of decisions that planners, foreign policy makers, leaders, elites are making. All right, that is strategic. Also, strategic has one more notion. So you must have heard the word geostrategic. हाँ, geostrategic भी सुना होगा. तो geostrategic का मतलब क्या है? Geographical location के हिसाब से किसी भी जगह की importance क्या है, उसको क्या बोलते हैं? जियो स्ट्रैटेजी. ठीक है, तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल व्हेन वी से व्हाट इज द जियो स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ अफगानिस्तान, तो यहां पे क्या मैटर आएगा, विच मीन्स व्हाट कैन बी द सिक्योरिटी चैलेंजेस वी कैन फेस बिकॉज ऑफ आवर ज्योग्राफिकल लोकेशन फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर रीजन, कंट्री और वट एवर स्पेसिफिक पास पॉइंट वी आर टॉकिंग. दैट इज जियो स्ट्रैटेजी. ज्योग्राफी से एसोसिएटेड जब कोई चीज होती है, हाउ इट डिटरमाइंस आवर सिक्योरिटी चैलेंजेस, that is geostrategy. ये बात समझ आई? Okay. Now we also use the term strategic partners. ठीक है? Which means what? Partners with which we have very key interests that are aligned. So we have a strategic partnership agreement we have with US. We have strategic partnership with Russia. we also had a strategic partnership with China and we also had a strategic partnership agreement with Afghanistan. तो अग्रीमेंट करना स्ट्रैटेजिक पार्टनर का असली महत्व है क्या, कि मैंने चाइना के साथ एक स्ट्रैटेजिक पार्टनरशिप अग्रीमेंट कर ली, विल इट बिकम अ स्ट्रैटेजिक पार्टनर एक्चुअल में बाय ओनली द मीन्स ऑफ अग्रीमेंट? एक छोटी सी कंट्री अफ्रीका में भी स्ट्रैटेजिक पार्टनर है, यूएसपी है, तो लॉन्ग टर्म की इंटरेस्ट, वाइड रेंजिंग इंटरेस्ट किस कंट्री के साथ डे ऑन डे बेसिस पे इन्वॉल्व होते हैं, वो एक्चुअल स्ट्रैटेजिक पार्टनर्स है ना। दोस्त तो कितने बनते हैं, कॉलेज में भी होते हैं, स्कूल में भी होते हैं, मोहल्ले में भी होते हैं, क्लास में भी होते हैं. सो strategic partners are what is the nature of depth of that partnership. It is not only agreement तो साइन कर लिया, but truly क्या वो पार्टनर है. तो हमें कई बार कुछ दोस्त ऐसे लगते हैं ये हमारे स्ट्रेटेजी, अरे कितना अच्छा है यार, आज तक स्कूल में भी ऐसा फ्रेंड ही बना, लेकिन जब तुम्हारा असली समय टेस्ट करने का आएगा तब पता चलेगा कि डेप्थ कितनी. ये बात समझ आई? स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर्स. सो इवन इफ अग्रीमेंट्स हैव बीन साइन, ऑल आर नॉट ट्रूली स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर्स. ठीक है ये बात. So that is the term strategic. So strategic is used in different ways in different aspects. Clear? So we finished the land component. Everyone wrote examples? Okay. Choke points वगैरह सब लिख दिया सबने? Dictation चाहिए? ये समझ आया? ठीक है. चल. Now let's move towards India's history and culture. Okay? Direct questions नहीं आते, but सब कुछ interlinked है, इसीलिए समझाना पड़ता है. ठीक है. Now when I say history and culture, so we need to understand firstly, why is my pen always getting two colors? Okay, history and culture. So India, I said yesterday, is what kind of state? Civilization. Why? Because we had a what? Long legacy. We had a long rich heritage culture from ancient times. Okay, we are not a country which has been formed in modern times, right? We have existed. Modern time की country कौन है? Israel, right? It has been formed in the 20th century. But India has existed like a civilization. Okay? So when I say civilization, which means our cultural ethos, our philosophy are very, very strong. So what was the philosophy that shaped India's foreign policy? और फिर इसकी application भी देखेंगे. What philosophy? What did it shape in ancient times? क्या philosophy थी? So we have two thoughts, two important thoughts. क्या है? Two. One we call it as realist. क्या बुलाते हैं? दूसरा हम बुलाते हैं ideal, idealist और moral in nature. इतनी बात समझ आई पहले? तो रियलिस्ट राइटिंग्स, रियलिज्म क्या होता है इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन में? इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस को मल्टीपल वेज में देखा जाता है, मल्टीपल वेज. ओके, विच मींस पीस तो एस्टैब्लिश करना है, क्योंकि इंटरनेशनल सिस्टम में क्या है? एनार्की है. तो सबके तरीके पीस के अलग है. कोई बोलते लड़के ही पीस होगा, कोई बोला बात करके पीस होगा, कोई बोले इकोनॉमिक्स से पीस होगा. तो सबके तरीके अलग है. सो हाउ वी व्यू इंटरनेशनल रिलेशन? रियलिज्म सेज दैट वी हैव टू एस्टैब्लिश व्हाट? वी हैव टू यूज स्टेट क्राफ्ट, we have to use war, we have to use hard power, we have to use threats. Only then what will happen? We can protect and secure our interest, because all countries are only guided by their own interest. So India में ancient times में ऐसी बात किसने की? Who was the man? So yes, there is only, like there is Arthashastra, there is Niti Shastra. Okay, these are key important books. Kautilya's work, Arthashastra, Niti Shastra, then many started to contribute to these work. The realist thought is there. So where we can use force. But was it there only in ancient times? Did India use force after that also or no? Did we use force as an independent, when we became independent? What did we do in Goa? Didn't we use force? था कि नहीं? हैदराबाद में क्या किया था? रेफरेंडम कराया था. बट गोवा में क्या किया? फोर्स यूज की, है ना? सो व्हेन वी यूज फोर्स टू इंश्योर आवर एक्शन, सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक इज यूजिंग फोर्स टू इंश्योर आवर एक्शंस. ओके, सो रियलिज्म इज देयर एंड इट हैज एग्जिस्टेड इन विच की वर्क? अर्थशास्त्र एंड नीति शास्त्र. इज दिस मच अंडरस्टूड? ठीक है. अब आइडियलिस्ट और मॉरलिस्ट क्या है? तो ये कहते हैं थोड़ा शांति से बात करते हैं, कोऑपरेशन करते हैं, अच्छी, डोंट फाइट, like solve the disputes. So where did we see this idealist moralist strands in India's ancient time? कहां से आया था बताओ? गांधी. एंशियंट टाइम में भाई पहले से भूत है क्या? बुद्धिज्म. हाँ, बुद्धिज्म. एंड when we look at this realist tradition comes from Hindu tradition है. So Hinduism contributed to this. Hinduism also contributed to धर्म शास्त्र. बट धर्म में और दंड में ज्यादा फर्क है नहीं. इफ यू वांट टू मेक ऑर्डर इन द वर्ल्ड तो तुम दंड भी यूज कर सकते हो. हिंदुइज्म में ये अलाउड होता है यूज ऑफ फोर्स. पर बुद्धिज्म कहता है इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस में भी हमारे और दूसरी कंट्री में कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं है. जैसे हमारे एक्सटर्नल और इंटरनल की कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एट इंडिविजुअल लेवल बुद्धिज्म सॉल्व करने को बोलता है. सिमिलरली देयर इज नो dichotomy or there is no opposition or contrast of relations between other countries. We should solve everything in a peaceful manner. So what should be the key idea? Non-violence. तो जो पंचशील आता है, right? पंचशील means what? 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. What is पंचशील? It is a doctrine. और उसको translation में करूं in English. So पंचशील is 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. Something like non-violence, right? So here comes Panchasheel. Then Gandhiji speaks of non-violence. Then Nehru brings it to, signing a treatment with China with respect to the Tibetan problem. We signed the Panchasheel agreement. How China and India can peacefully coexist. So respect each other's. What are those 5 principles? Respect each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. There should be equality. तुम बड़े छोटा का कोई फर्क नहीं करोगे. तुम भी country हो, मैं भी country. ठीक है? Mutual benefit. There has to be equality. Non-intervention in each other's affairs and non-aggression. These are the 5 principles of what? Peaceful coexistence. Peaceful coexistence comes from where? From Buddhism in international relations. And Arthashastra, Niti Shastra brings the realist tradition. So this is the philosophical basis of India's foreign policy. Okay? Now this was in ancient times, but we see later also, no? History is not only ancient India. Cultural ethos are being shaped later also. So what is it the medieval times contributed? What did the Mughals contribute to us? What they brought to India? What it led to India? क्या हुआ? Mughals ने कैसे contribute किया in foreign policy? So they brought cultural pluralism. क्या बुलाया? Pluralism मतलब सिर्फ एक ही doctrine नहीं है life को देखने की, right? So Islamic values also brought people. We saw that we can toleration and coexist together with the tenets of Islam that are being implemented in. So they brought a lot of cultural pluralism. Pluralism means not mono, not one, not single. Many type of people and values can coexist together. That's why we say tolerance has always existed in India, right? So even in the ancient times, we have the Hindu tradition, the Buddhist tradition, the Jaina tradition. But in the medieval times, this cultural pluralism to India's foreign policy has been brought by the Mughal rule. Okay? And then modern times, who is the key contributor to modern history? अरे बताओ, हाँ? Gandhi, Mahatma. Okay. Why Mahatma Gandhi had to come? तुम लोग एकदम रूट को क्यों नहीं सोचते हो? Why did Gandhi have to come? Who came so that Gandhi had to come? So the first is British, who contributed to India's foreign policy. So they knew that India is a very important power. If they want to, क्या बोलते हैं? It is the jewel of the British Empire. India is the jewel of the British Empire, which means the resource, the connectivity that it helps for the British Empire to grow is what? तो एक एम्पायर है कि अपनी ही कंट्री में तुम एम्पायर बना रहे हो, है ना? आसपास लोकेटेड किंगडम. One empire is in the form of imperialism, which is going beyond borders. What will we call it? So the idea of establishing empire is imperialism, the thought, and its practice becomes colonization. ठीक है? These two differences you understand. Thought process of having a great empire is imperialism, but establishing it by direct control is colonization. So British taught us many things, the frontier, buffer state concept, no other external powers to be present in the British Indian territory, right? So even today we say zone of peace in the Indian Ocean region. मतलब बाहर के powers इधर नहीं आने का, हमारा इलाका है, हमको रहने दो. Is this understood? ठीक है? So that continues. Indira Gandhi also brought it, right? Nehru also didn't want external powers to be there in Nepal, in other neighboring countries. किया कि नहीं? Okay, so modern India, the British contribution with how systems had been created. So the parliamentary system, the bureaucracy, the army, all of it continued, na, British legacy, and those were these institutions after independent India which shaped our foreign policy. So you have to think of it from there. Parliament didn't come just out of nowhere, no, after independence. Or, right? Is it clear? So things have been, because of British, a lot of systems were built, and those systems contributed to foreign policy making in independent India. ये बात समझ आई सबको? So how history, cultural, civilization, ethos have contributed from the ancient until the modern times. ये बात समझ आई सबको? आगे बढ़े? Next, let's move to economic power. Okay, let me first take the political structure. Political structure. So what is the key political structure? First is parliament. Second is, बताओ, tell me. अरे हाँ तो बोलो ना. Then, okay. So why does parliament play a role? What role does parliament play? So what should be a common consensus? So it is only the highest amount of consensus we see which needs to be evolved. Consensus मतलब सबका मिल बांट के डिसीजन है, ठीक है? तो सबसे ज्यादा कंट्री में कंसेंसस कौन से मैटर्स पे होना चाहिए? इंटरनली तो हम लड़ते रहते हैं, मतलब द पार्टी इन द गवर्नमेंट इन पावर and the opposition will have opposite views on everything. But what is it that one coherent voice has to go is the matter of foreign policy and national interest, irrespective of how much ever there is rivalry. This is one point which cannot come into any kind of compromise. So parliament is that one single voice of India's foreign policy. What is the echo that you hear in the floor of the parliament goes to the world of foreign policy. So what is our story? So our enemies use what are the statements of our opposition leaders. So they have to mind and come on consensus when it is about what? Foreign policy. Then many treaties and agreements, if they are not ratified, which means the law is not passed, okay, in the country to give effect to that treaty, then that there is no ratification. Without ratification, signing a convention is कि मतलब साइन करके आए, लेकिन इंडिया में डोमेस्टिकली उसको अप्लाई करने के लिए लॉ नहीं बनाया, तो उसका कोई महत्व नहीं है, राइट? सो व्हेन वी से रैटिफिकेशन का मतलब क्या होता है? व्हिच मींस यू पास अ डोमेस्टिक लॉ टू ब्रिंग दैट ग्लोबल आइडिया इन कॉन्सोनेंस विद योर डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसी. तो क्लाइमेट चेंज इज नाउ देयर इन एवरीथिंग, इन द इंडस्ट्रीज, in every sector that we are trying to bring that idea, and how everyone has to take control. So what will be the levels that will be assigned to industries? इतने emissions नहीं हो सकते, अगर हुआ तो फिर punishment है. फिर environmental protection act आएगा, industries को regulate करने के लिए जो acts आएंगे, ये सब क्या है? Wildlife के लिए act आ रहा है. This is all to protect environment, but we have spoken of commitment to the global environmental issue. इसीलिए, so that is known as ratification. तो ratification कहाँ होता है? And if we want to tell the world what are we thinking on an issue, it will be at the voice of the parliament, है ना? So for example, if we want to give a declaration about some war that is happening somewhere, so imagine war happening Russia-Ukraine. So what is the key words that will be used? What will be the key? Official stand is of the MEA. It means of the government in power, but it will be discussed in the parliament that this is India's official stand, not only the government in power. Is this understood? So that is also taken up in the parliament. So parliament play a very important role in foreign policy making. Okay, obviously more important is the government. सारा decision government का होता है, but consensus कहाँ बन रहा है? Parliament. Fine. Next we come to the states. So initially it was the government in power, which is part of parliament. Executive is part of parliament, right? Westminster model. Polity नहीं पढ़ा ना? It's okay. हाँ? President, no, I am saying parliamentary system जो इंडिया का है, तो executive is part of the legislature, right? So effectively, the parliament should be the key with respect to making foreign policy. So today there is a phenomenon where state governments also play a key role in foreign policy making. We call this as para diplomacy. क्या बुलाते हैं? I am expanding in this. Please follow. So what is para diplomacy? Which means state governments also contribute in better realization of national goals. National goals यहाँ पे क्या है? Foreign policy के sphere. अब ऐसा क्यों हुआ दुनिया में? तो पहले तो पार्लियामेंट, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स, यही सारा मामला सब सेट करते, प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑब्वियसली, पीएमओ's ऑफिस. बट व्हाई स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स हैव कम? सो आफ्टर 1990s, क्या? तो पहले तो अगर हम देखें इंडिया में देयर वाज अ सिस्टम विच इज कॉल्ड एज कांग्रेस डोमिनेशन. क्या था? राइट. Until the fall of Congress or decline of Congress started, state governments also became, regional governments became low, other parties rise also happened. ठीक है. So first there was Congress domination. तो consensus बनाना center और state में क्या था? आसान. क्यों? The party at power in center is also the party at power at the state level. So making foreign policy consensus is very easy. But when there is rise of the regional governments and they also have different aspirations, तुम लोगों को डाउट नहीं होते? सब समझ आता है क्या? Online students, right? So when there was rise of regional parties, regional governments also became very important units. समझ आया? First idea. Now, why world में ऐसा क्या होने लग गया that state government became very important? So the trend came, we call it as globalization. क्या आया? अब अगर ग्लोबलाइजेशन का असली फायदा उठाना है और असली आउटकम्स के मजे लेने हैं तो क्या होना चाहिए? स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का कोऑपरेशन होना चाहिए. क्यों? ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वैल्यू, मतलब वन इंपॉर्टेंट वैल्यू क्या है? इंटीग्रेशन तो है ही. दूसरी इंपॉर्टेंस है कंपटीशन आता है. क्या आता है? क्योंकि ग्लोबलाइजेशन विल बी गाइडेड बाय फ्री ट्रेड, है ना? फ्री ट्रेड है. फ्री ट्रेड मतलब नॉट फ्री विच मीन इजियर ट्रेड. ओके. सो जब ग्लोबलाइजेशन हैपेंड, कोऑपरेशन of state government becomes important because in the world there was lot of competition. So what happened at the state level also there is competition. So we say, first we used to say cooperative federalism, which means center and state will cooperate. Then we say competitive federalism, which means one state of India will compete with other state of Maharashtra and Gujarat, or Maharashtra and Gujarat and Bengal. All three will compete with each other in the best possible manner to attract what? This global investment. कि हमारे स्टेट में आओ, वी विल गिव यू द बेस्ट डील. सो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को अट्रैक्शन करने के लिए क्या होने लग गया? कॉम्पिटिटिव फेडरलिज्म एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट केम 1990s ऑनवर्ड्स, एंड दैट्स व्हाई स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स बिकेम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू कंडक्ट फॉरेन पॉलिसी इन अ बेटर. फर्स्ट आइडिया इज विद दिस ट्रेंड. ओके. ग्लोबलाइजेशन लीड्स टू व्हाट? कॉम्पिटिशन. कॉम्पिटिशन लीड टू कॉम्पिटिटिव फेडरलिज्म. क्या लिखा? तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कोऑपरेटिव फेडरलिज्म बिकेम irrelevant. No, that was also coexisting. But the rise of competitive federalism starts 1990s onwards. Everybody wants investment. Second important thing is that these state governments have some cultural factors. That's why there is rise of regionalism and all. Language hai, common culture hai. So those states, okay, which are located with the bordering countries, they are better placed to deal with these bordering countries than the center dealing with these bordering countries. So it is Manipur who is better placed to deal with Myanmar. It is Kerala which is better placed to deal with UAE. Okay. Why? Because of the common closeness of geography as well as cultural factors. So ethnicity is such an important factor in Northeast India, right? And they have lot cross border ties. Nepal, India, right? So यहाँ पे who is better placed to deal with who? So Assam is better placed to deal with Bangladesh than New Delhi, which means Assam and New Delhi के बीच में झगड़ा नहीं है. But अगर एक एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स का डिपार्टमेंट आसाम में बन जाए तो हर चीज सेंटर पे आने की जरूरत है, वहां से और अच्छा कोऑर्डिनेशन हो जाएगा. क्यों? क्योंकि कल्चरली भी एज वेल एज अगर एक प्रोजेक्ट भी आ रहा है तो पावर, पानी, लैंड सब परमिशन कौन देता है? सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट तो साइन करती है. देना किसको है? इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कौन देगा प्रोजेक्ट के लिए? State government. So better कि state government is on board. So realizing the importance of state. So this actually happened more better in the case of Rajasthan and Israel. Why? Rajasthan is a dryland area. Israel is well known for innovation in agriculture and irrigation. So Rajasthan wanted what? They wanted those advanced techniques of irrigation to be implemented. So first success is seen there. कि Rajasthan and Israel cooperate. So then the state government say, better, we should coordinate with Israel agriculture. So the center will also now, we should take this on a larger level also. Okay, fine. So then now in the present time, the Ministry of External Affairs has created a division which is called as the States Division. Kya division? States Division, which means the views of the states are also important for coordination of foreign policy. One more example I give you. So when Prime Minister Modi goes to Russia, he takes a 4 CM delegation. फॉर वट एवर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स वी वांट. तो पहले चीफ मिनिस्टर नहीं जाते थे प्राइम मिनिस्टर के साथ, राइट, टू डू all dealings, but he takes a 4 CM delegation so that we could better analyze. State governments can see what is the potential and then they can accordingly invest in Russian fields. This is the importance of state governments when we talk of para diplomacy. So we call this also as decentralization of foreign policy. What we call it as? First there is centralization, matlab government and parliament. Then it is decentralization. Okay? और डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन है तो फेडरलिज्म तो आएगा ही, विच मीन्स कॉम्पिटिटिव फेडरलिज्म. सब कॉन्सेप्ट्स इंटरलिंक हो गए, कहानी बनी. हाँ, सो देयर इज द की आर्किटेक्ट और द की शेपर, which means the key decision maker, irrespective of the existence of civil servants or the Minister of External Affairs, is the Prime Minister himself. It is the Prime Minister's vision. It is his decision. He is that final decision maker. So every foreign policy reflects the vision of the PM and the PM office. ठीक है? Now how does this operate? Try to understand. We have the PMO. So when you understand PMO, you only understand it by Prime Minister, which is your wrong understanding. Why? क्योंकि पीएमओ को सिर्फ पीएम नहीं चलाते. कौन चलाता है? ब्यूरोक्रेट्स. तो एक ब्यूरोक्रेसी ये हो गई जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर्स ऑफिस में वर्क करती है, सिविल सर्वेंट से है ना. अब आते हैं आपकी मिनिस्ट्रीज. इनको बुलाते हैं हम लाइन मिनिस्ट्रीज. क्या बुलाएंगे? तो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर है, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स है, ठीक है, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस है. ओके, अब तो रफाल का प्रोजेक्ट करना है तो कौन सी मिनिस्ट्री डोमिनेंट होनी चाहिए? हाँ हाँ, डिफेंस. लेकिन अगर सारी डीलिंग्स पीएमओ कहता है ये फाइल हमारे पास भेज दो, हम देखेंगे क्या करना है, आपको जब कंसल्ट करना होगा कल. तो यहां पर भी क्या है? मिनिस्टर भी है, प्लस यहां पे भी उसके क्या है? सिविल सर्वेंट स्टाफ है कि नहीं. सो व्हेन देयर इज सेंट्रलाइजेशन ऑफ फॉरेन पॉलिसी, there is centralization of not only decision making. This is only this person is not strong. The entire bureaucracy and civil servants that are working in his office become more stronger than the line ministry. And here the conflict of power will start. तो मिनिस्ट्री को लगा हम तो पूछते नहीं, सब कुछ पीएम ही कर रहे, हम तो बैठे आए चाय पी के चले गए. Got this dynamic? So it is not only the minister will also feel मुझे क्यों रखा है? Just to sign. I don't have real power. I only have legal authority. ये बात. So there is also conflict of power. But imagine if good synchronization happens. So there is no misunderstanding between the MEA and the PMO. The MEA says, okay, officially also I will do, but I will always consult PMO also. Then there is harmony. वरना Minister of External Affairs और PM में क्या होगी? लड़ाई जो होती है. और जब ये लड़ाई होती है तो फिर जो फॉरेन सेक्रेटरीज और अदर स्टाफ है उनका भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है विद द स्टाफ ऑफ द. ठीक है? Okay, so Prime Minister's office is very important. This is how they shape foreign policy. His vision, his leadership. He is the final decision maker. Okay. Now till then comes the Ministry of External Affairs. So it is the official body to conduct all foreign policy matters. It has multiple area divisions. ठीक है, यूरोप डिविजन, वेस्ट एशिया, नॉर्थ अफ्रीका डिविजन, ऐसे बहुत सारे क्या है डिविजन्स है. देन देयर आर आल्सो डिविजन्स लाइक पब्लिक diplomacy, how media को कैसे how will take the foreign policy message to people of India as well as diaspora world. So there are multiple divisions that are there in the Ministry of External Affairs. Okay, but slowly what started to happen, we were seeing that there was a lot of gap when we were implementing war measures in Kargil. तो Ministry of Defense कुछ अलग कर रही है, Foreign Ministry कुछ अलग कर रही है. ठीक है, और सिंक्रोनाइजेशन ऑफ पॉलिसीज नहीं है. सो टू सिंक्रोनाइज द सिक्योरिटी पॉलिसी विथ द फॉरेन पॉलिसी, सो व्हेन वी विल ट्राई फर्स्टली टू डू थिंग्स डिप्लोमैटिकली, बट व्हेन दे डोंट वर्क वी हैव टू टेक हार्ड मेजर्स आल्सो, राइट. सो टू सिंक्रोनाइज दैट, व्हाट केम एज अ न्यू बॉडी वाज नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. व्हाट? नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल. ये बात समझ आई सबको? सो दिस एंड ब्रजेश मिश्रा वाज द फर्स्ट National Security Advisor. Now, very important, you need to understand that the National Security Advisor is not designated for security matters, only external issues. He also looks at, तो वो जम्मू कश्मीर भी जाते हैं, वो मणिपुर भी जाते हैं और वो पाकिस्तान भी जा रहे हैं. So he is concerned with security, internal as well as external. Okay? ये बात समझ आई? So NSA also becomes very important now when we talk of foreign policy. So he also it becomes a key power or center of authority on how we will conduct. So it is not only Prime Minister or the MEA. He also will be taken into consideration. All right? And he has, so he is obviously key decision maker. Then below him there is assistant NSAs. ठीक है, डेप्यूटी NSAs जो है. तो अब पहले क्या था, ये भाई साहब सारे सिक्योरिटी के मैटर्स भी देख रहे थे और NSC का सेक्रेटेरिएट भी मैनेज कर रहे थे. ठीक है, तो अब ये जो सेक्रेटेरिएट मतलब ऑफिस को भी मैनेज करना, मतलब एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव टास्क भी करना है और मोदी जी के साथ बैठ के चाय भी पीना है, दोनों काम करना है. पहले ऑल अथॉरिटी वाज विद राइट अजीत डोभाल, है ना, बट वी रियलाइज दैट ही इज गेटिंग अननेसेसरी, ये एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव टास्क में दिमाग खराब हो रहा है. तो देन देयर वाज अ वेकेंट पोस्ट व्हिच गॉट फुलफिल्ड एंड नाउ टू मैनेज द सेक्रेटेरिएट देयर इज अनदर NSA. And obviously specialization wings have also come, right? So for example, intelligence, crime, cyber, इसके लिए अलग deputy NSAs भी आए. All right, fine. So this is about what? This is about the how foreign policy and security policy are today. So it is only after the 1999 fiasco, Kargil war में, that we realized के national security management also needs to be taken into consideration while we implement our foreign policy. Okay. Clear? All right. Now, let's see economic aspect. Online students, are you with me? Any doubt? So when we talk about how economics is very important, okay? So we need to understand that there are various interpretations of the importance of economics in foreign policy making, okay? So first important aspect is that free trade, when somebody who has a comparative advantage of production of some product, like for example Vietnam, है ना, तो IT products में they are good और rubber में they are good, okay, so they have better comparative advantage than others. China can be having for a majority of the manufactured goods, okay, India can be having for pharmaceuticals, है ना, Bangladesh can be having that comparative advantage in textiles, right? So everybody will have comparative advantages and everybody will play on that comparative advantage and they will gain from free trade. Okay, so first idea when we talk about importance of economic pillar in foreign policy, it is associated with the idea of free trade. Now, how this free trade, obviously it will shape foreign policy because investments, natural resource, okay, industries, trade, all of this, import, export, all of this will be part. Infrastructure projects is also part of economics, है ना? तो resource बोलो, how location of key mineral resource, so why people want to go to Africa, why people want to be present in Afghanistan, because of resource. Why we want to be present in the ocean beds, islands which have that, because they have key oil and natural gas resource. Then there is infra projects. So Japan investing in India's investment in infrastructure, right? तो metro establishment हो या highways हो, railways हो, ये सब है ना. Then there are key strategic projects like natural gas pipeline and others, connectivity projects. This is also part of how these things shape the economic aspect of foreign policy making. ठीक है? But what all this will lead to in countries? इससे countries में क्या होगा? इससे countries में reduction of war होगा. क्यों? क्योंकि slowly आपके investments बढ़ेंगे. क्या बढ़ेंगे? When investment will happen, I have to go and protect my reserve. War is not good. So China will get scared, when there will be in Pakistan CPEC corridor में अगर India goes, fights the terrorists, and oh my God, this area is so important for me. How can somebody be present there? My assets are there, ना, मैंने investment दिया, पैसा डाला है. So protection of investment will now become a key factor on how China will calculate foreign policy decisions. How India will look at the dispute. So Germany becomes very important now. Example in Russia, Ukraine. So there is a key dependence, pipeline that was there. But then to stand with the European Union, they compromised that project with Russia. Okay, pehle they were getting very, restless that this war is not good. But then they realized that yes, it is also a matter of principles, इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ यूक्रेन, ऑफ हाउ इट वांट्स टू कंडक्ट इट्स फॉरेन। तो फिर उन प्रोजेक्ट्स को होल्ड पे किया गया, दे वर रेडी टू ट्रेड ऑफ दोज कमर्शियल इंटरेस्ट। So this is how economic interest will shape foreign policy. Okay, right? Russia, Ukraine. Okay. So Germany had a key project, okay, with Russians. Ab, when Russia and Ukraine conflict starts, so there will be voting in the UN, and Germany is a leading player in European Union. So if Ukraine joins EU or joins NATO, because many European Union countries are part of NATO. ठीक है? तो अब जो की प्लेयर है जर्मनी, वो बोलेगा मुझे तो रशिया के साथ डील करना है, तुम्हारा जानो, रशिया और यूक्रेन लड़ते रहे, आई डोंट केयर। यू थिंक दैट विल बी अ गुड लीडरशिप एग्जांपल? कमर्शियल इंटरेस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट है कि मैटर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल? टुडे रशिया हैज इन्वेडेड यूक्रेन, टुमारो इट विल इन्वेड यू, व्हाट विल यू डू? सो देन दे लेट ऑफ दैट इकोनॉमिक इंटरेस्ट आल्सो। इज दिस अंडरस्टूड? सो दिस इज हाउ, इवन इफ इकोनॉमिक्स प्लेइंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल, बट countries trade off also for principles happen. समझ आया? Clear? How presence in Africa, how presence in Afghanistan for mineral resources, all this is infrastructure, investments, you call them, India's assets abroad, right? Or Chinese assets abroad. This become very important pillar for foreign policy. All right? Now very quickly, other factors are nuclear weapons. So nuclear weapons play a very important role in foreign policy. It gives you an edge of how you create fear in the mind of your enemy or adversary, that if you attack us, the response will be as harsh as possible. So nuclear weapons create, in a way they say, peace. But is this peace very good peace? Huh? Okay, it's not a very good peace. It's a cold peace. Which means always there is some tension that is there. डर रहता है, यूज कर लिया तो डर क्रिएट करना, साइकोलॉजिकली डराना, न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स पजेस करके, उसको क्या बोलते हैं? डेटरेंस। क्या बोलते हैं? डेटरेंस, व्हिच मींस क्रिएटिंग फियर इन द माइंड ऑफ योर एडवर्सरी, दैट इफ यू अटैक अस, वी विल अटैक यू बैक इन अ मोर बैड मैन, इन अ मोर हार्शर मैन। ठीक है? सो न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स क्रिएट व्हाट? न्यूक्लियर डेटरेंस, एंड इंडिया इज ऑल्सो अ न्यूक्लियर पावर, सो दिस गिव्स अस अ ग्लोबल स्टैंडिंग इन द ग्लोबल न्यूक्लियर ऑर्डर, राइट? Yes, there are a lot of attributes countries have. This is also one more important in our arsenal, nuclear weapon. Then there is also science and technology and other things that play. So space mission with Russia, defense with Israel, US, Russians, all this also are very important determinants. Chalo. Oil ke liye, how, it is said ke India chose, non-alignment or being neutral in the Russia-Ukraine conflict because we were getting cheaper oil. So that is the economic aspect of foreign policy. ठीक है? चलो, अब आगे बढ़े. Now let's start with foreign policy evolution. You want to take a breath, then take. It's okay. Just write down the external determinants quickly. International order, international law, international organizations, treaties यही है, alliances, we know both type, formal and then military also is very important here. What is your standing globally makes lot of difference. So जैसे मिलिट्री स्ट्रैटेजी कह दो या आर्म्स रेस, कितने आर्म्स हैं, ओके? आगे बढ़े. कैन आई गो अहेड? ओके, अब आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्लियर हो गई सब एस्पेक्ट्स की, सबने एग्जांपल्स ये सब नोट कर दिया, इसको अपने आंसर्स में लाना है, नेचुरली ऑर्गेनिकली लाना है. ठीक है? अब वी विल मूव टुवर्ड्स फॉरेन पॉलिसी फ्रॉम नेहरू टू मोदी. प्राइम मिनिस्टर नेहरू, ओके, सो ही is born in a very elite family and he is a man of lot of paradoxes. Okay, why I say so is because despite being, somebody from an elite structure, he empowered a lot, he, sympathized a lot with the masses, and he always spoke of what he was inspired by socialistic policies with respect to inequalities that are prevalent in India. ठीक है? Yes, he was a nationalist despite going abroad, studying, Western education, being inspired by that. But when he came back to India also, he brings those modern ideas, and still he is a very important part of the Indian freedom struggle. And despite being a Hindu, he is a staunch promoter of democratic pluralism and values. And he was a man of what? Promoting secularism in the country. So yes, there have been a lot of different lives that he has lived. And when he arrived in India, it is said that he became more British than Indian, because obviously, that earlier. And then he got imbued slowly in the national freedom struggle. So when he came and when he thought of how foreign policy had to be conducted, because he had a keen interest in foreign policy, and we know that, he was the one who also handled the external affairs. So India's foreign policy architect का term किसको दिया जाता है? Who is the architect of India's foreign policy? Is Prime Minister Nehru. Okay, now, so he is architect of India's foreign policy. Nehru is a man who believes in the immense power of international institutions. What? So he says we should have international institutions to ensure peace. तो पीस बनाने के लिए फोर्स की जरूरत नहीं है. फोर्स की जरूरत नहीं है. What we need to do is we need to do communication. And communication in IR is negotiation and settle disputes peacefully. Settle disputes peacefully. So he always felt dialogue is very, very important. All right. He is a person who believes that India is a country which can be the country which can really contribute to the benefit of not only Indians but to the world order. And that's why he also believed in Indian exceptionalism that we spoke of yesterday. That yes, we have something very much more than ourselves to offer to the world. What? Indian क्या था? Yes, Indian exceptionalism. So he also believes that yes, India has more to offer to the world to bring peace. So when he believes in international institutions, which means which international institutions advocate he will do is UN. When he says communication, negotiation, settling of disputes, which means he will talk of having treaty, है ना? So Panchashil treaty with India, China, Hindi, Chini, bhai bhai. And he also felt that India can be leading power. India can be leader of the world. But this was a vision that is there in the minds of all prime ministers. कि India should be leader of the world. अब China का ऐसा मन नहीं था. China is like, first we will focus on ourselves, keeping a low profile, biding our own time, और फिर दुनिया के सामने जाएंगे, फिर देखेंगे. So China focus first inwards. But India के अंदर क्या है? Leader of the world. लेकिन पैसे है नहीं. Partition हुआ है अभी. So true reality is we don't have resources, we don't have industries, we don't have military strength, and the nation is a fragile nation in building. तो अब कैसी बातों से दुनिया को लीड करना है? हाँ? What should we do? So we should talk of moral things. क्या बनाए? बड़ी बड़ी बातें करो. Right? There is nothing wrong in it. This is realism, not only idealism. This moral idea is also guided by pragmatic vision of Nehru. कि जब जो strength है उसका यूज करो. ठीक है? So then to talk of moralistic concerns, he says we should use the term, we should be non-aligned. Ab, let's understand this. When we say non-alignment, it does not mean no participation or it does not mean neutrality. Non-alignment means active participation in world affairs but maintaining independence. Why at this time of India's independence? Because there is a war, and then there is Cold War amongst the two key blocks. He already saw that the first two world wars have created immense devastation in the world. So if we don't want a third world war, somebody will have to adopt a middle path and ensure कि world और divide ना हो जाए. Because if the world is divided more, the conflict will become severe and hamper the life of millions. and specifically those from the developing and the underdeveloped countries. Why? Because the developed nations had a edge of everything. So he felt at this point of time we should adopt non-alignment. Non-alignment is like a middle path, है ना? और मध्य पाथ कहां से आता है? बुद्धिज्म. तो बुद्धिज्म talks of Panchashil, middle path. This inspires non-violence. Gandhi. And Gandhi is the man who inspires Nehru. But Nehru is the implementer because he becomes the first PM. So contribution will go to him only. ठीक है? So non-alignment has been part, the middle path has been India's value में located है. ठीक है? Right? And then being implemented as a strategy so that the world is not divided into more blocks and not a more bad creation of war will happen. So to maintain world peace, he chose non-alignment as a strategy. Now non-alignment in key terms means independence in decision making. Kya? How we deal with whom. Second idea is the non-alignment movement. One is non-alignment as a matter of principle of foreign policy. तो एक्चुअली नेहरू जी का मन नहीं था कि नैम बनाए. एफ्रो रिलेशंस, एशियन रिलेशंस कॉन्फ्रेंस होती है, फिर बेलग्रेड कॉन्फ्रेंस होती है. ऑब्वियसली वी से नेहरू, जोसेफ टीटो, अब्दुल नासिर, ऑल ऑफ देम आर पार्ट, उनो, बट ये उनका दिमाग नहीं चला. इट वॉज कृष्णा मेनन हु टोल्ड हिम मूवमेंट बना के लीड करते हैं, तब मजा आएगा. So he wanted it as a strategy for India, but to lead the global south was not what Nehru actually wanted. It was the persuasion, Natwar Singh says, of Krishna Menon at that time, and that's why he says, okay, then let's do this also. So one is non-alignment, which means independence as a matter of principle of foreign policy, and then it converts into a structural movement where all countries of the global south come together. This is movement. This is also like the third voice in the world affairs, which means they are also adopting the middle path amongst the two key blocks. And here India will also adopt the middle path or independence. Independence means we will also engage with both of them, but we will not side by any one country. And in this way, it is very beneficial also. Why? Because we can extract benefits from both of them also. Second, we can establish world peace also. Third, we can also become leader of the world. So every way, this strategy is a matter of benefit at that time, which was prevalent. We didn't have that military, advantage to use force because internally we were consolidating ourselves. We were not a very strong nation, na? Partition है, states integration हो रहा है, reorganization हो रहा है, कितनी conflicts चल रही है, economic crisis हो रहे हैं country. Is this understood? So first you need to understand non-alignment is what? It is independence in foreign policy. क्या है? Independence in foreign policy. Who we will deal with how is a matter of our choice. And non-alignment is also a movement. So ये बात दोनों समझ आई. आइडिया एक ही है, बट ये आइडिया यहाँ पे पहुंचने से पहले इंडिया में कहा था? बुद्धिज्म. तो मतलब हमारी वैल्यू सिस्टम से आता है, पॉलिटिक्स से नहीं. कहां से आता है? तो और मॉरल ग्राउंड बड़ा हो गया. अगर बोलते कि उस समय के हालात को देख के नॉन अलाइनमेंट किया तो अपॉर्चुनिस्टिक साउंड होता ना कि जस्ट मैटर ऑफ स्ट्रेटेजी, तुम्हारे में ऐसी क्या बड़ी बात. बट हमने इसको हाई मॉरल ग्राउंड दिया. कैसे? सेइंग कि ये तो हमारे वैल्यू सिस्टम से डिराइव है यार, तुम क्या बात करो. ठीक है, फाइन. नाउ अब क्या होता है? इन कोल्ड वॉर द वर्ल्ड इज डिवाइडेड बिटवीन टू ब्लॉक्स, यूएस एंड यूएसएसआर. व्हेन एंड ऑफ कोल्ड वॉर हैपेंस, एंड ऑफ कोल्ड वॉर क्यों होता है? पहला रीजन क्या है? तो एक पावर गिर गया, ये डिसइंटीग्रेट हो गया, राइट? तो कोल्ड वॉर खत्म. तो कोल्ड वॉर खत्म तो सबसे बड़ा सवाल किस पे आएगा? किस पे आएगा? एज अ मैटर ऑफ प्रिंसिपल विच वॉज गिविंग द थर्ड वॉइस एज वेल एज टू दी मूवमेंट कि अब तुम लोग मिलना बंद कर दो. क्या मतलब है? ये तो खत्म, अब तो यही है. तो दुनिया में कौन सा ऑर्डर होगा? कॉमन सेंस. हाँ, यूनिपोलर ऑर्डर होगा. वी आर द किंग, लिसन टू अस. सो नॉन अलाइनमेंट को नया नाम दिया गया. इंडिपेंडेंस को 1990s के बाद क्या नाम दिया? What was the new name as a principle? We called it as strategic autonomy. क्या? क्योंकि फिर नॉन अलाइनमेंट टर्मिनोलॉजी में कॉन्टेक्स्ट में नहीं बैठ रहा ना. कोल्ड वॉर के समय तो नॉन अलाइंड बिकॉज 2 ब्लॉक्स. 90 के बाद नॉन अलाइंड अगेंस्ट whom? So as a matter of principle, the name came strategic autonomy. And the movement also got restructured. So saying that we don't want this unipolar world order. We want to establish a multipolar. ये बात समझ आई? So strategic autonomy is always been a part of non-alignment as a principle. Just the name got changed. Why? Because the context of the world order changed from Cold War to end of Cold War. ये बात समझ आई? तो अभी जब भी हम ये टर्म अखबार में पढ़ेंगे नॉन अलाइनमेंट और स्ट्रैटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी, इसमें अंतर है? कोई अंतर नहीं है, सिर्फ समय का अंतर है. क्या है? समय, टाइम. द कॉन्टेक्स्ट देन वाज डिफरेंट. एंड ऑफ कोल्ड वॉर कॉन्टेक्स्ट वाज डिफरेंट. इंडिपेंडेंस इज देयर इन नॉन अलाइनमेंट, इंडिपेंडेंस इज देयर इन स्ट्रैटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी. And independence, so here it is not about being neutral, it is about being an active participator in world affairs even today. So we were not neutral, we say, in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. ठीक है? We were trying to negotiate peace between 2 warring powers who are at war. ये बात समझ आई? Clear? अब ये हो गया इंडिया का नरेटिव, इंडिया की कहानी है ये. अब बड़े पावर्स हैं, पागल तो नहीं है, वो भी तो कुछ कहेंगे. So they say this is only अपॉर्चुनिज्म. क्या है? कि तुमने लीडर बनने के लिए ये सब नाटक किया है, नैप बनाया है, तुम लोग सब कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हो. स्टालिन बोलता है, सो यूएस सेज दिस इज पॉलिटिकल अपॉर्चुनिज्म ऑफ इंडिया. स्टालिन सेज ईदर यू आर विद अस और अगेंस्ट अस, देयर इज नो थर्ड वे. व्हाट इज नॉट देयर? नो थर्ड वे. ओके, सो ऑब्वियसली देयर वाज अ लॉट ऑफ स्केप्टिसिज्म इन द सुपर पावर्स, राइट? But does non-alignment as a strategy stay for too long? Non-alignment what? Non-alignment movement says peacefully resolve conflicts and we should not fight with each other. And we should tell the 2 superpowers also not to fight. So we should have nuclear disarmament. We should have arms control. But as soon as India-China war happened, India gets aligned in a way which means India takes military help from which country? USA. तो पहला वायोलेशन वहां हो गया, राइट? सो वी डिड अ डिफेंस अग्रीमेंट इन 1963 with US where US Navy had access to some bases in the Bay of Bengal region, right? And second challenge comes when clearly siding is with Russia. ठीक है? So when the Bangladesh crisis happened, okay, and obviously there was skepticism in the minds of the Chinese, the US and the Pakistan. All of them have come together. So there is like a strategic triangle that has been formed. What? Strategic triangle. क्या बनता है? तो एक साइड ये लोग तीनों आते भी क्यों? I'll tell you. So there is USA. अब USA, so India says non-alignment in principle as well as in the movement, है ना? Pakistan says no, we will do formal alliance. क्या करेंगे? क्योंकि हमारी तो, हमें कौन पूछेगा, हमको बेनिफिट्स चाहिए. ठीक है? सो पाकिस्तान एंटर्स इनटू व्हाट? अलायंसेस. ओके, फॉर्मल अलायंस इट डज विथ यूएस. ओके, नाउ and it takes all the benefits it can. India is also taking benefit, agriculture technology, and with Russia also we are doing defense agreements, all of this, but we are not doing any formal alliance. But Pakistan is in formal alliance and taking benefit. Ab crisis happen in East Pakistan, Bangladesh today. Okay, see how the world politics is playing. So okay, USA and Pakistan coming together is still understood, right? Because, but how is US and China coming together? Because Cold War is ideological war between capitalism and communism, not socialism, communism. ठीक है? तो अब क्या हुआ? कैपिटलिज्म एंड कम्युनिज्म ये साथ में कैसे आ गए? फाइट तो आइडियोलॉजिकल है क्योंकि चाइना तो क्लोज है रशिया से. बाय व्हाट? बाय आइडियोलॉजी. बोथ आर कम्युनिज्म, डिफरेंट वेरिएंट्स बट टुगेदर इन आइडियोलॉजी. बिकॉज इन दोनों की होती है बॉर्डर क्लैश क्या होती है 1969 में, दे आर फाइटिंग, कॉलिंग इट एज उसूरी बॉर्डर क्लैशेस होती है बिटवीन होम, चाइना एंड रशिया. ओके, सो चाइना ऑल्सो allies here, they come together, so a strategic triangle is formed, right? और 69 है तो 62 वॉर ऑलरेडी हो चुका है. ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है ये, तो अब कैसे इंडिया को रोका जाए टू हेल्प अदर थिंग्स. सो पाकिस्तान, यूएस, दे ऑल विल बी अगेंस्ट क्रिएशन ऑफ दिस. इंडिया नीड समबडी बिकॉज हमारे लिए तो दोनों साइड से थ्रेट है. सो इंडिया देन अलाइंस विथ रशिया बिकॉज रशिया चाइना की लड़ाई है, राइट? सो इंडिया को रशिया के साथ क्या करनी पड़ी 1970 में ट्रीटी की, so that tomorrow if there is war after creation of Bangladesh, who should remain neutral and who should not help, our enemies is Russia. So we will do a treaty of peace and conflict. And Russia is also ready to, because we are anyway taking so much defense supplies, other things, 70%, and तब तो और ज्यादा था, right? तो 1960s और 70s का ये environment होता है with respect to how things were happening. ये बात clear हुई? No, the treaty is in practice said like a formal alliance, but it was only a treaty. It is not an alliance. ठीक है? So it is, yes, मतलब practice things are different, and theoretically we just say we were doing a treaty of friendship, peace and cooperation, but we were not having any formal alliance. In return, what was Russia giving also with respect to India's problem? Kashmir. So Russia says we are your very close partner, time tested friend, old friend, best friend. So even with respect to voting on Kashmir, we will not do any voting against India. ये बात समझ आई? इतना क्लियर हुआ डायनामिक? ठीक है. So why I went to this point? Because I was talking about the challenges to non-alignment that came. So first is defense agreement in 1963, and then is the 70 treaty with. ठीक है? Clear? So that's why S. Jaishankar says this first phase, so he classifies India's foreign policy into 6 phases. How many phases? So he says the first phase of India's foreign policy is an era of optimistic non-alignment. क्या है? Optimistic, which means we expected कि non-alignment as a strategy will work, but it came under challenge very fast. Okay? चलो, अब हम थोड़ा सा लिख लेते हैं. So Nehru is believing in international institutions. Okay, his idea, quickly revise with me. Does he believe in international law? Yes. He believes in UN as a force to establish world peace. He believes in non-alignment. He believes in nuclear disarmament. Okay. Does he like USA as a country? What is his view towards the Western powers? Lot of skepticism, because they are just extension of Britain as an imperial power. So how Britain was an imperial power, US will be worse than that. So he had immense skepticism towards USA. है ना? तो US is trying to make a lot of offer, but India is denying. In Nehru's period, India says no, हम हिंदी चीनी भाई भाई करेंगे. And Pakistan is very opportunist. It goes with US. Okay, so initial there is a lot of what hesitation towards the Western powers, because they have always used us for their vested interest. But he is very much inspired by socialism as a philosophy. So he likes Russians because Russians talk about equality as a value, and the West, the US, the UK, they talk about liberty as a value. So he is more inspired by which value? What value is more important for India? Yes, empowerment of the masses, so equality, है ना? But he brings his own version of democracy as well as equality together. Russia became dictatorial, na? System politically. India got democracy as well as equality together. So, ये democratic socialism या Fabianism जिसको बोलते हैं. Tomorrow, if you will wait, or today, if you wait for 5 minutes, I can explain these concepts in little more detail. They're not part of IR, but just for your conceptual understanding, I will do it. But उसके लिए क्लास के बाद, क्लास के अंदर है, पहले IR निपटाना है मुझे. Okay. So, Nehru believes in nuclear disarmament also. चलो, अब थोड़ा सा लिखो. Now, all this is only ideal or pragmatic भी है. So, he's a very pragmatic man. Why he chooses Hindi Chini bhai bhai over aligning with US? Because he knows the history of China. He has studied Chinese history and he knows China wants to be expansionist power. इंडिया की इंटरनल भी वाट लगी है, बाजू में एक नेबर है जो एनिमी बन चुका है, पार्टीशन हो, अभी इधर से भी चाइना से भी हो गया तो फिर लग जाएगी. तो क्या करना है? चाइना को खुश रखना है, एकदम मस्त रहो, वेरी गुड, ऑल टुगेदर. दैट्स व्हाई दैट थिंग. बट दिस क्लोजनेस इज नॉट हिज मिसकैलकुलेशन, इट इज हिज अंडरस्टैंडिंग. इट इज कि उसको धोखा मिल गया, वो बात अलग. ये बात समझे? ठीक है. So there is a lot of pragmatism. Where one in the world he is talking of nuclear disarmament. तो न्यूक्लियर डिसआर्मामेंट होगा तो एक तरीके से दुनिया में हमेशा पीस की बात चलेगी, राइट? इन 1950s 60s अगर हम कंप्लीटली ऐसे सब लोग पार्टीज बन गए तो बात अलग हो जाएगी. तो यू टॉक ऑफ न्यूक्लियर डिसआर्मामेंट बट यू साइड बाय साइड प्रिपेयर फॉर न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स. सो ही गेव lot of research support also to the scientists to develop the atomic. So he is a mix, he is a visionary who has idealism or moralism also in his foreign policy along with realism. He is very pragmatic, but yes, history is only critical of Nehru. That is his misfortune. चलो लिखो. Prime Minister Nehru is the key architect of India's foreign policy. His idea is known as Nehruvianism. ये टर्म याद रहे तो अच्छा है, थोड़ा टेक्निकल है, नहीं रहे तो कोई बात. नेहरूवियनिज्म के थोड़े पिलर्स लिखो. दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, रिजॉल्विंग डिस्प्यूट्स बाय पीसफुल मेथड्स देन वॉर और फोर्स, रिजॉल्विंग डिस्प्यूट्स बाय पीसफुल methods than by war or force, peaceful methods than by war or force, resolving disputes by peaceful methods. मतलब what are peaceful method? क्या होता है? गप्पे मारो, बातें करो, ठीक है? So right ऐसे ब्रैकेट में communication and dialogue, comma treaties and agreements. सब कुछ समझ में आता है, तुम लोग बहुत होशियार हो, ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स हैं. ओके, देन राइट इकोनॉमिक सेल्फ रिलायंस, कि हम लोग कंप्लीटली नॉन अलाइनमेंट तब तक नहीं होगा जब तक सेल्फ रिलायंस नहीं होगा, क्योंकि हमेशा इनसे भीख मांगनी पड़ेगी, है ना? सो इकोनॉमिक सेल्फ रिलायंस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इकोनॉमिक सेल्फ रिलायंस एंड इंडिया एज अ कंट्री कैन बेनिफिट नॉट ओनली इट्स ओन सिटीजन्स बट कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट टू द वर्ल्ड. इंडिया एज अ कंट्री not only talk about benefits of its own citizens but benefit the world. Key practitioner, ऐसे को key practitioner of international law. तो UN institution भी और international law को protect भी करता है ना, United Nation. तो international law में भी believe करता है, ठीक है? This is Nehruvianism, है ना? अब ऐसे लिखो, ऐसे पिलर बना दो. तो सबसे पहले ऐसे लिखो meaning of non-alignment. Non-alignment. Non-alignment implies independence. It is not neutrality. It is not passive. It is not passivity. Passivity मतलब हमको कोई लेना देना नहीं. Okay? ब्रैकेट में ऐसे भी लिख सकते हो ignorance. So it is not passivity or ignorance, but active participation in world affairs. Active participation in world affairs. Right? Non-alignment, NA as a matter of foreign policy principle. Non-alignment as a foreign policy principle. ऐसे लिखो, non-alignment as a foreign movement के बारे में बाद में लिखेंगे. Non-alignment as a foreign policy principle can be traced to the cultural values of India. That is, Buddhism talks about middle path for an individual. Similarly, India adopted the middle path to ensure peace, to ensure world peace, and not have the same hostility like in the world wars. Not have the same hostility like in the world wars. Okay, now write next. Non-alignment as a movement. अब वो movement से पहले वो लिख दो, right? Panchashil refers to 5 precepts in foreign policy. 5 precepts या 5 ideas, precepts बोलते हैं इसे, मतलब ज्ञान. 5 precepts to establish peaceful coexistence. To establish peaceful coexistence. Okay? Thus, it is comprising of non-violence as a strategy, also advocated by Gandhi ji in the Indian national movement. गांधी जी in the Indian national movement. और ऐसे वो 5 क्या है पिलर्स पीसफुल को एग्जिस्टेंस के पंचशील में ऐसे लिख दो. रिस्पेक्ट फॉर टेरिटोरियल इंटीग्रिटी एंड सोवरेनिटी, नॉन इंटरवेंशन इन ईच अदर्स अफेयर्स, नॉन एग्रेशन, इक्वालिटी एंड म्यूचुअल बेनिफिट. ठीक है. तो जब भी अभी हम कोई भी कंट्री मतलब सॉरी कोई भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर की पॉलिसी पढ़ेंगे, सो वी विल स्टडी व्हाट ऑल थिंग्स. वी विल स्टडी व्हाट इज देयर व्यू टुवर्ड्स सुपर पावर्स. हु आर द सुपर पावर्स? बातें नहीं. सो एट दैट टाइम इट वाज यूएसए एंड सोवियत यूनियन. ओके. And obviously since China also we want to study, so we will do China also. Then we will see neighborhood में क्या क्या किया इन्होंने, every prime minister. What is their view on nuclear disarmament? ठीक है, ये तीनों चीजों में हम देखेंगे. तो we saw Nehru with respect to USA skepticism, with Soviet Union inspiration, China के साथ tried to do partnership so that there could be peace in the region. Right? Neighborhood we'll do next time. We always spoke of nuclear disarmament and had a lot of belief in which institution? United Nations. Okay? चलो बात. USA क्या है? UK के बाद क्या है? Next imperial power जो दुनिया में अपना वर्चस्व बनाना चाहता है, USA. So it wants everybody to listen to me. तो इंडिया ऑलरेडी ब्रिटिश के साथ भुगत चुकी थी, तो USA की तरफ, US भी पार्ट ऑफ वेस्ट है, तो US को भी इंपीरियल पावर की तरह ही देखा. So he was inspired by the values. ठीक है, चलो बाय.